You know Dewey's Bakery for its iconic sweets and treats, the sugar cakes, the thin cookies, and the cake squares, especially on Mondays when you can get one of those delectable squares for free. But during these hot months, you can't forget about the ice cream. Made from scratch and featuring all your favorite flavors, Dewey's ice cream is the perfect way to beat the heat this summer. And what do we always tell you about Dewey's? It's the place for all of life's celebrations. And in the summer, that means weddings. Since 1930, Dewey's has been crafting delicious wedding cakes, plus custom cupcakes and groom's cakes. Team up with one of their celebration specialists to find the perfect fit for your special day. To get started, just email cake@deweys.com or swing by the Thruway location in Winston-Salem. And for any of your everyday cravings, you can also visit the store at Renolda Manor or at Friendly Shopping Center in Greensboro. Dewey's, celebrate every day.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another real estate episode with our guy, Blake Ginther. We are recording this on Juneteenth, so happy belated Juneteenth to everybody out there. And today we're talking summer real estate because Juneteenth is also the eve of the official start of summer. Summer solstice, June 20th, longest day of the year. The temperature feels like summer. It's muggy. It's hot.
It's hot.
And so it is, without question, a summer-themed podcast. Blake, you and I are getting ready for some summer vacations here soon, but we have business to take care of first. We want to tell the people about what's happening locally in real estate. So, my friend, how are you and how are things as we get ready for the official start of summer?
Doing well, man. And summer, we ended up having a good May. We're gonna have a good June, and July's already shaping up. So from a personal business perspective, no complaints, and life's good. And per what you said, right? We're getting ready to have some fun with the kids, extended family cousin trip soon. So good stuff.
Yeah, man. So I keep reading headlines, man, and I know look, it's hard reading the national news right now. It is difficult
In like so many facets.
Yeah,
so many
there's not a lot of good news out there, but
Yeah.
I keep stumbling upon I don't read the articles because I don't trust the national articles about real estate. I trust your information, and you should, whether it's Blake or wherever you live. If you're listening to this outside the Triad, trust your local real estate folks to give you the right information about your area.
Yep.
But man, I keep seeing these national headlines as I'm scrolling through things, and it's just all talking about how the housing market isn't bouncing back. It's not doing well, yada, yada, yada. It's very negative spin on the national real estate. So tell us what's the real story right now, locally.
Yeah, I mean, our local market is, the data is a little mystifying. I did a video last week about how the market's up 9% in May. It was up 9%. And first of all, by the way, that's average. Just to clarify, median was up 5%. And just so everybody knows, right, the median is the better one to go off of because it throws out the outliers. The high and low outliers get tossed. And so I would say if you ask most realtors in our market, they would say, yeah, I believe 5%, meaning prices were up 5%. In our local market. And that's accurate because our inventory is still lowish, right? We're still under 3 months supply in almost every price point. There is seemingly more sellers than buyers at the moment. But 10% of the market turns every week, like consistently. Some weeks it's 11, some weeks it's 9, but on average it's 10% going under every week. So the data is mystifying because it doesn't feel like a seller's market, even though statistically it is, and it doesn't feel like a buyer's market either because there's definitely not that much inventory, but it's just a nice normal market. And man, I said this in a room full of realtors the other day, and I felt the energy just go woof when I said, and I think we're going to be here for like a couple years. And the energy just
Couple years?
I think we're here for at least, realistically, at least a year, probably two.
When you say here for a couple of years, here meaning just the normal market that you're saying, not buyer's market, not seller's market. It's just in the middle.
Level.
Yeah.
And statistically, it is a seller's market. And I think that might tweak towards level by the end of the year. but it will still feel the same. It will still feel level. Um, and because it's not going to be a buyer's market because we're not going to have enough inventory because we're not building like the markets that are getting the notoriety around being poor is they just started building like crazy a few years ago. And that would be Austin, Texas. That would be Texas, several cities in Texas. That would be Phoenix, Arizona, and a couple cities nearby in Arizona. And then Florida, God bless them, they overbuilt. Plus, they had the natural disasters and the insurance issues. So, and by the way, they have always been Florida and Arizona in particular have always been like what people look to kind of prognosticate the real estate market. They're leading indicators. I would say national news can't use those as leading indicators anymore because they're just now outliers because they've overbuilt and we haven't. You drive around here, if you're listening to this, when you drive around, how many new neighborhoods do you see? Right? They're out there, right? But not that many, right? They're not on every, when you make a drive, are you going to even drive by one? Right? I mean, a normal day to day, you might not drive by one, right? Well, if you live in Texas or Arizona, or chances are you can't drive anywhere without driving by a new neighborhood. So it's just a different thing. And I mean, I think our market, it's healthy. It's healthy. And I think where we'll transition here shortly to the conversation is sellers, and I've been saying this for a long time, but definitively, if sellers wanted to feel real good, they have to take certain steps. They just have to. And pricing aggressively or appropriately just isn't enough to achieve like the optimal outcome that sellers often want.
And what are those additional steps? We've hit on these in a lot of different episodes, but just it's worth, I think, mentioning again those additional steps that sellers might need to take right now.
Well, and I don't want this to be a promo. I thought our Renovation Now pay it closing program was going to kind of be a thing that would go away. When the market softened and leveled out a little bit and it wasn't such a seller's market, I thought, well, without the guarantee, people probably aren't going to want to do it. All right. The guarantee of sale, which, by the way, our market's still good enough and will be for the foreseeable future that you will sell. A seller who's committed to selling will sell. They might not love the number, but they'll sell. And if they do the renovation, I've yet to have a client, and we've done it now, I don't know, 60 plus times. I've yet to have a client do the renovation program and not like where they land.
And it's a renovate now, pay later. So you pay it closing.
At closing.
Comes out of the closing.
That's right. We call it RNPC, right? In internally, because it's renovate now, pay at closing program. And I'd say our average is probably right around $10,000. But we did one that was over like 40. We're trying not to do that because that's a little extreme, and it takes too much time, frankly, to make it make sense for the seller. But on average, sellers spend 10 to 12 grand. I'll just give you a real life example as we just literally executed it. I met with the seller, told them they did nothing. It would probably list in the mid threes and it would probably take 45 days. And we might have to do a price reduction or two. If they put $10,000 to $15,000 in it, we could list no lower than 375, realistically a little above that, and they might get that number and go a little above, which you're seeing priced well. And I'll get to the one other element of just renovating. You can get above ask. So we just went on a contract above asking, two handfuls of showings in 48 hours. And so they were fully exposed, if you will, to the market. And they loved that outcome. And they ended up by the way, it was $15,000. We ended up spending $15,000. And so they're going to net. They're going to, first of all, stress-free because they sold super fast, which gets stressful, right? Because they have a house they're wanting to buy. So they can check it off. They did it. B, they're going to net after they pay back the $15,000, they're going to net an additional 30K. Like, actually, I think it's closer to 35. Reality is, I've yet to have a seller not net 20 more. And it's more important is that the timeline now, if you don't update your home, it's going to take you at minimum a month, realistically 45 days, and minimum one price reduction and sometimes two.
Yeah, so it's the time and the money that you could lose out on the sale if you don't take the steps to do the renovations. What are the examples, or a couple examples? You don't have to necessarily give the example of the one you just mentioned, but if someone is using this program and taking $10,000 to $15,000 to do a renovation that's going to help them in this way, what are the examples of the projects that they're doing with this?
Yeah, it's usually it's paint, it's light fixtures, it's light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, countertops. It's primarily cosmetics. We have done one where we had to do a heat pump, right? A new HVAC. We've done one where I think we did one with roofs being a thing with insurance. Like some buyers literally cannot buy a home with an old roof. So we've done a roof.
Because
By and
they won't be able to get any good home insurance with it.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and no doubt that's when you read articles, right? The insurance world, we talked about this in I think our last one, is changing our world a little. And not every seller has the funds, or what I've discovered is a lot of the sellers have the means. They don't want to have the mind share. They don't have the headspace for it. And they don't have the ability to get the contractors. And because we pay them and we pay them super, super promptly, they typically answer our call and can get out there.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity. So that's the Renovate Now, Pay at Closing program. And it's a great option for people that don't have the money to be able to spend right now on those, but it's going to pay off in the long run. It just gets factored into the closing costs.
They either don't have the money or, I mean, honestly, Adam, I'd say it's at least 50% of them have the money. They don't have the means. They don't have the contacts and they don't want to have to deal with it.
And so that's the other part to this too, is you guys take on the role of subcontracting everybody out to do the work, right?
Correct. Yep. And we meet them over there and we get the quotes and the client still approves everything. And we will send them, before we write a check, we will send them a DocuSign saying, hey, we're going to write a blankety blank check to blankety blank for blankety blank. Sign off that you're good with this. Because we're writing the money, but it's their money at the end of the day because
right.
we're getting reimbursed at closing for it. So it is ultimately their money. So we need their autograph saying they're good with it.
Got it. I want to go back to one thing that you mentioned earlier, which is a level market. Is that a healthy market? Would you describe our market as a healthy market? And if so, why would you consider level, not buyer, not seller, one way or the other, at least in terms of the extremes? But we're in a healthy place right now.
I would say It's funny you say all this, and I'm like, we're not going to go down any politics, but I would say compromise is healthy, right? Is kind of the key to life. I mean, I would say setting proper expectations is probably the key to life, but compromise is healthy, and usually, right, in a healthy relationship, we're not doing everything one person wants to do, and we're not doing anything the one person that somebody else wants to do. We're doing a little bit of both, right? We're compromising, and that is our market. Our market, sellers are having to do the things they should have been doing before, right? Like no more dirty underwear on the floor. You got to paint your house.
Sorry about that.
You should, and what I was going to cover is we're definitely starting to see staging again. Staging was super popular pre-COVID. It was mildly utilized during COVID. It is very important again, because not only do you need to make the home look updated, but you might need to show them where the furniture goes because some people lack imagination and set a vibe. I mean, hate to say it that way, right? As the kids say, right? Set the vibe, and a vacant home sometimes, has an empty vibe.
I was going to ask you that. Sometimes you can't help it because maybe you've already moved, or it's a rental property and the tenant owns the furniture or something like that. But is a furnished home sometimes better for a showing than a vacant home?
Almost always, unless the furniture is not no bueno.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would, and we have stagers. So we can both help with minor light staging and also major like furniture.
I would love to. Maybe I don't know if this is a good question for you or maybe for one of your stagers, but I'd love to hear about common mistakes people make when it comes to staging their home, other than leaving underwear on the floor.
Yeah, yes. I think gone are the days of the fake fruit. I remember the fake fruit was
Yes.
like always the telltale. Oh, well, this house has been professionally staged. The fake fruit is over. Uh, but I do think that it's still a nice minimalization. What I will say I'm seeing is like artwork is coming back, like hanging art on the wall, a freshly painted wall, which you never saw. But again, it's setting a vibe.
Yeah. And it might not necessarily be the artwork that you own, but somebody's coming in and just bringing things to put on the wall, correct?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I remember I once had a client like we were like, you should probably take down all your family photos. You should, and so she like had picture frames of like the stock photos. Like I thought it was pretty funny. She's like, I mean, they're not my family, so I mean,
Yeah. Now just use AI. Just go put it into Chat GPT and say, can you provide a generic family photo for me to put up on a wall in a home that I am staging?
that literally captures every single type of human,
Yeah.
and AI can do it.
Yep. Correct. Yeah. And it's for a home that will sell in the mid 200s in this location in this city. Yeah.
Adam, you're gonna hate me for this because you're gonna start saying this. But somebody said it to me, and my kids hate how much I say this. I said, you know what, guys? Let's go to Chatty G. Let's see what
Chatty G.
let's see what
So
Chatty
now
G has to
now it has a
say.
pet name.
Let's see what Chatty G has to say. And by the way, you hate it, and you're gonna say
No,
it.
I don't. I don't
You're gonna
hate it
say it.
actually.
I did. I hated it, and I'm like, Chatty G.
Chatty G.
What do you gotta say, Chatty G?
Chatty G. I'm gonna have Chatty G create an image for this podcast. I'm gonna say, Chatty G, here's the audio file of this recording that Blake and I just did. Can you generate an image that summarizes it? Not show notes, not a description of the podcast. I don't want a transcript. I just want an image that captures what we talked about.
I mean, if it's smart, right? It makes a like a Chatty G logo.
Yeah, with fake fruit somewhere in it.
Fake fruit would be certainly we super digress. But the reality is, man, dude, what we're talking about, this AI and virtual, it is impossible for AI to tell people the specifics like we just discussed, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of our world. Of like, no matter how good AI gets, it won't be able to tell you specifically what the market is doing in Ardmore, Buena Vista, West End, Sherwood, Davie County, Advance, Davidson. It's not going to be able to give you the specifics.
Yeah.
And so we'll always need humans, but ChatGPT is super friendly, super easy. It did help me with my son's geography B, just saying.
There you go. Chatty G can't stage a home.
Can't do it.
Stage a. They can read numbers. AI can read data and give you conclusions based on that data, but it can't tell you all the little intricacies and details of each home.
Actually, because of this podcast, ChatGPT is going to use fake fruit, so you can't use ChatGPT.
That's right. Yep. Can't use it. You're right. Sorry. ChatGPT is going to use fake fruit, and they're going to stage your home like it was 50 years ago.
Man, if anyone's still listening to this, we're so sorry. But the truth is, I do think if you got nothing, if they get nothing from this, it's that, doing upfits and staging are back with a vengeance. Do you have to do those things? No. Do you want the optimal outcome? Then yes. If you are willing to be patient, okay, just know that patience will be tested. I mean, our Forsyth County is only at 35 days, but the Triad is at 42, I think. And I think the reality is we're trending a higher direction. It's going to take 45, soon 60 days to sell your house if you don't do everything right.
Which is what it is in a level market.
I mean,
right?
Pre-COVID, it was 3 months. Back in 18, it was 4 months. Like we used to have billboards that said also guaranteed to sell your house in 120 days or less, right?
Which was a big deal.
It's a huge deal. And now everyone would be like, oh my God, 120 days. You suck.
All right, my friend, this was fun. Whether folks want to take advantage of the Renovate Now, pay at closing program that you offer that we've talked about in this podcast, or just have questions about their own real estate needs, how can they get a hold of you and your team?
Well, they can Google us. They can ask AI, ask ChatGPT, or Google us at theginthergroup.com, 336-283-8689, 283-8689.
All right, my friend. Enjoy your summer. We'll talk to you next month. Have a great vacation.
You too, man.
Be good.
Be good.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.